What is up, everyone? Welcome to Livestream number 7. I'm going to keep this one short and sweet. First things first, I'm actually going to stop doing these every 2 weeks and do these every month. There's a lot of time and effort that goes into them, and as a lot of you are aware, I got to wear a lot of hats. Running the farm, so I want to kind of scoot this back on my list of priorities and do this once a month and try to give you a little bit better content, some more relevant, really anything. And of course, I want more time to get feedback from you guys. What do you want to hear about? What do you want me to talk about? Because I like to do these things where I talk about what the farm is mining. Every 2 weeks. We could do that every month. It actually gives a little bit more time for the profit switcher or profit boost to bounce around, so I can get a little bit into greater detail about how the farm is doing. It'll give me some time to go into some deeper topics about why I'm into crypto and why I think crypto is a revolutionary technology, not just the blockchain, but also the incentive mechanisms behind mining and security and decentralization as a whole. And then I just think it's going to be a better thing for everyone involved. So I'm going to move this to once a month. We're going to do May 7th, obviously. So June 7th is going to be our next one. Actually, let's make sure that's not on a weekend. I'll confirm that after the stream. Actually, let's just do it right here and find out. June 7th is a Friday. Yeah, let's do that. Or maybe I'll do it the 4th. I don't know. We'll do once a month, and maybe the first Tuesday of every month or something like that. That makes sense. I'll definitely send an email out about how we're gonna handle that. So let's talk about some stuff. This is, of course, my buddy Magical Coffee. He's still refining his stream here, but most notably, we see Bitcoin skyrocketing. We see XRP relative to Bitcoin tanking. All is right in the world. For those who are not aware, XRP is what I call a bank chain, where the owners of Ripple can essentially create more Ripple at a whim, and they just use it as a tool to get more banks to sign up to their network. So, let's say HSBC are like, oh man, this Ripple tool, it's actually more efficient to use Ripple to transfer value than, let's say, like Swift or something like that. Oh, cool. Well, join our system. We'll bribe you with some free Ripple, and you'll be a stakeholder. And then as more banks join, the value should go up because everyone's holding it, but we're creating it. It's not. It's it doesn't really make any sense to me. I know you can download nodes, but you can't actually participate. You can't actually earn rewards. If I'm incorrect on that, please somebody throw it in the chat. Make me a believer of Ripple, because I think it's like one small step when we've got technologies that are like giant leaps in how we should perceive and interact with money. I know I talked about Ripple a little bit on the last stream too, so I don't want to give it too much time a day. But I'm not a big fan. I'm a big fan of public blockchains, and Ripple is not one of those. Um, so I also wanted to talk about a little bit what we talked about, or just touch on what we talked about last time, which is Authy. Make sure that you are protecting your coins with the 2FA factor, two-factor authentication. Make sure that you are not using your cell phone number, which can be spoofed, but you're using an app that is tied to your specific device. Make sure that app is password protected. If you have Face ID, your fingerprint, or a passcode, make sure that specific app is also protected in case you lose your device. If you want to transfer that Authy device, let's say you get a new phone, it takes 24 hours. They send you email, they send you text messages, they make sure that you're the one doing this. So this isn't something like you land in Seattle like I did, and suddenly you don't have your cell phone number and your phone anymore, and someone's trying to hack into all your crypto accounts. Don't be me. Well, it'll happen to you too. But I had 2FA, I had Authy. It saved my butt. Um, Please, I cannot recommend it enough. Make sure you are secured. We also last time talked about the meaning of decentralization, and Vitalik has a great post about what he thinks that this means in the context of crypto, and I think that you can apply this to beyond that. Politics, I think blockchain technology is a decentralization of power in the way that we create our money. It takes power away from governments, puts it more into the protocol, which is democratically elected by the participants, and it makes it so nobody can cheat, nobody can dilute the supply It's really a basis for, I think, a revolutionary way for us to store value as a society. So we can talk about why centralization, or we did talk about why centralization is bad on a crypto network or in general, and why crypto networks need to be decentralized to not only thrive but achieve that goal of being a revolutionary political and monetary system. So we talked about that a little bit last time. I will definitely put this link in the show notes if you guys want to read this. This is, I think, the biggest post to make me a disbeliever in, let's say, the Trons and the EOSs of the blockchain world, and more specifically be a fan of the Ethereums and the Bitcoins and the Grins of the blockchain world, because I think the people that don't know the difference, or refuse to separate the two are missing the point entirely. And I think this post, and a lot of other sources, but this post does a great job of explaining why I think that way. Just another article on the spoofing. It just really rattled me that someone was able to do that. I wonder how close they were to me to know that I was on a flight. But keep your stuff safe. Luckily, I did not walk away a victim from there. I was protected through Authy. So I'm just gonna basically take, this is gonna be a real short one. I'm just gonna talk about what we've been mining, some comments on the market, and then just call it a day. And then next month I'll have a big one prepared. This will last a little bit longer. We'll have a little bit more fun with it. Hopefully we'll get some more interaction from the chat. See people in here. Say hi. Cool. So, oh, I lost my mouse here. There we go. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in the market. So something I noticed that I didn't expect during this bull run is that Bitcoin is alone. I mean, we're seeing movements upwards, I think, with everything, but Bitcoin is by far outpacing everybody. And if you remember during the bear market, altcoins far outpaced Bitcoin on the way down. So basically, the altcoins are the ones that are getting hit the hardest, I think, and were hit the hardest in the bear market, and aren't really seeing a recovery yet in the bull market. Now this could change, but I'm just surprised to see it this way when Bitcoin is usually the safest, the least volatile of all of the assets in the crypto sphere, but that's actually turning out to be not the case. It's actually just seems to be the most dominant. And we can actually see this by the Bitcoin dominance chart here. I think around here I was hyping up the flippening, which is where Ethereum was going to be worth more than Bitcoin at a certain point. I know there's a lot of Bitcoin maximalists out there that think I'm crazy. I'm sure there are some Ethereum maximalists out there as well. But this was about when Bitcoin Cash and the Bitcoin and the SegWit debate were occurring, and I just thought that Bitcoin wasn't going to be able to overcome the internal struggle, the internal political struggle that it was seeing at the time. But now we're seeing Bitcoin not only recovering, but it's continuing its trajectory of being the most dominant cryptocurrency, leading the charge in the bull run, where we don't know if these alts are gonna match it. And I think there's a couple of people saying that they're not going to follow. Uh, of course, I disagree. I think all ships rise and fall with Bitcoin. ETH jumped with dApps breaking a record on transactions, I believe. So yeah, that's the biggest reason why I'm a big fan of Ethereum, is that you've got use cases, you've got apps being built on top of it. But it also kind of highlights the fact that blockchains are slow, they're expensive. So the scaling debate is really what I think is going to separate Ethereum or Bitcoin or any of these other coins from the ones that can't process the transactions. But at what cost? At the decentralized cost, because then you can have people like EOS or coins like EOS where you don't really have true decentralization, but they can process a lot more transactions. So is that going to be Bitcoin with SegWit and Lightning Network and the Schnorr signatures and God, I can't remember what was just proposed the other night. Or is it going to be Ethereum with its Shasper, with its sharding and Casper, with its proof of stake, with its own rating network? Which blockchain is going to be the one to succeed? So it's really a matter of keeping things decentralized while also having that throughput. If you could post a link with breaking that record on transactions, that'd be amazing. I'm pretty sure there's overall Bitcoin's been the king, because Bitcoin's got the first mover advantage. Everyone's heard of Bitcoin, and it's doing the best here in the bull run. So Um, Definitely something that I'm watching. As a holder of Bitcoin, I'm not 100% in alts, nor would I recommend anyone be 100% in alts. I think Bitcoin is still going to be king for quite some time. I don't know. Yeah, I would say that probably there may be a flippening, but it's years and years and years away. I think the Ethereum needs to seep into all these other different industries. Um, and smart contracts really need to take off in order for that to be a conversation, because clearly Bitcoin can survive toxic politics and censoring of forums, and it's just there's a lot going on behind the scenes with Bitcoin, that it won't kill it, and it's very clear that I was wrong, that it won't kill it. So we'll continue monitoring that. The other theory is that altcoins just tend to lag Bitcoin. Very possible. Let's click on this link. Pull it up here for you guys. Ethereum World News, Ethereum dApp transactions set a new all-time high. So is this just May 6th, yesterday? Um, dApp-based transactions, understood. Let's see, beating the previous record set in December of last year. Okay, so this happened on one day and it broke the record. Ethereum or Bitcoin isn't a part of this conversation, right? So this is just dApps. This is just any cryptocurrency that has dApps on it, which I don't think Bitcoin does. So this is kind of a niche. What's the word I'm looking for? Title, reward, or award that they gave out. I mean, this is great news. I don't want to discount the fact that it's. Let's take a. Let me get a chance to read here. And to be honest, Ethereum really isn't going to compete on the throughput, transaction throughput. If actually, what can they do? Like 7 TPS? Is it more now with this latest? I actually don't know what the maximum TPS is, transactions per second, since the latest hard fork, which I believe helped with that. But the transition to proof of stake, which is a pretty massive overhaul in how they're doing everything. Of course, it's going to be phased. It's not going to flip a switch and we're going to be on a completely different network. But we're really not going to see the throughput that we need on Ethereum until we get Shasper. So is it 25? Wow. Man, I remember when it was like 4. That's great. So blockchain technology is still rocketing off. I'm going to probably save this. I'll put this in the show notes too. But I'm going to save it for later to read. Let me put it, or I'll just put it at the bottom. So that's cool. That's great. I'm not a big fan of EOS, as I said. Tron. I mean, you guys could probably list some other proof of stake coins. And understand that Ethereum's going into proof of stake, but it would have by that time, I think, gone through almost 10 years. I don't think we're going to go completely out of proof of work until like 2025. I just think there's going to be delays and delays and delays. So with the proof of work phase for that long, I think you can make a more of a case that there is real distribution than on like EOS or Tron and things like that. Yeah. So Plasma is that Amis Go, or is that something different? There's so many different scaling solutions that it's going to be a hodgepodge of all these different things working together that's going to make the most sense. But I mean, all of these things are like, I can think of what Raiden, which is Lightning Network, Plasma is if yeah, OMG is Plasma. You got Sharding and Casper. I mean, that's 4 scaling solutions all on the same blockchain right now. So that's, I think, again, Ethereum. Well, the Bitcoin also has Schnorr signatures. They've got Lightning Network. The big blockers want big blocks, but obviously that's not going to happen anymore. There's one thing that was proposed last night. BIP. Oh my God, Schnorr signatures, but it was something else. I'm hoping it's just kind of in the same. No, probably not. Within 2 weeks. No. Hang on, this could be it. No, it does have something to do with CoinJoin, but oh my God, I gotta look it up. Bitcoin privacy upgrade proposal. It has to do with privacy actually being injected to Bitcoin privacy soft fork. Okay. This is May 6th. Yeah, this happened yesterday. So I'm on the road here. Adding improved Bitcoin store signatures. Is this what I was looking at? Taproot. Yes. That's exactly what I was looking at. I'll put this in the show notes too. So Taproot is a proposed Bitcoin improvement that let's just read it. I don't want to biff it here. So this is a building on top of SegWit that basically obscures or obfuscates money going in and out of Lightning channels. So you can have privacy-oriented Lightning network. Certainly, I think will massively help the fungibility of Bitcoin, which I think is a problem with non-privacy chains. And I know that there's a lot of bankers and a lot of people out there that would rather you be able to see where all the money is going to and from, kind of like how the banking system exists today. I think that's not how it should be. I think privacy is a human basic human right, and these blockchains should be pursuing privacy what's the word, features that some blockchains have inherent. So I'll put this link in the show notes page as well. What do I think of Ethereum Classic? So obviously I'll tell you a little story. I was at the zoo, Brookfield Zoo in Chicago, and leading up to the DAO, when the DAO happened, they basically started funding the DAO, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, it's the new era of fundraising and in corporate blockchain-based corporate rules, and Bitcoin or Ethereum went from like $10 to $22 in a day, or over the week leading up to that day, and then the DAO got hacked. I remember I'm at the zoo with my ex-girlfriend, and um, I'm just watching the price tumble, and I'm on my phone. I don't have a way to trade at the time, and I'm just reading refresh, and I'm just watching all the Ethereum I have lose all of its value. I think it crashed back down to like in the teens. Um, and then Ethereum Classic was born out of the decision that Vitalik and crew made to basically revert the existence of that DAO. Um, Act like it never happened, therefore the funds were never stolen because the company was never created and people were refunded their money. And the Ethereum Classic people were like, no, 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 the blockchain is immutable. You can't just decide. You can't just decide to roll back a blockchain like that. That's the whole point. It has to be immutable. It has to be permanent. So the Ethereum Classic was born. I at the time, a lot like Bitcoin Cash. Boy, really getting into my personal feelings about this. But Ethereum Classic, I think, had admirable goals, but the community wasn't really behind it because if the blockchain didn't have that wide of a base. Pretty much everyone invested in the DAO. I mean, like 70% I think of stakeholders, and I made that number up, but like I know a majority of that the value of the DAO was a good chunk of value of what the Ethereum blockchain was worth. So almost everyone was like, okay, we could just pretend like it didn't happen. And I don't think that can happen again. In fact, I think it happened again recently with Parity. Parity had a multi-signature problem. A lot of Ethereum got locked up in that issue. And the ecosystem has grown so much to the point where like there wasn't any political will for that rollback to happen. And I think that's going to be the case moving forward. I mean, let's say you have like a bank heist in in New York or something like that. You would have to convince the entire U.S. monetary policy to like pretend like that money doesn't exist. It made sense when that was the only bank in existence, but now that the ecosystem's grown and grown, I don't know if this analogy is making any sense to you at all. But now that it's grown and grown and grown to the point where there's so many different things being built, wallets and protocol upgrades and dApps and all these things that like, oh, somebody messed up. Well, it's 1 out of 1,000 projects now. It's just you're not going to generate enough political will. But back then it was so much big chunk of the community that they could push it through really with very little opposition. I mean, there clearly was opposition because of Classic, but they were clearly the minority, and you can see that reflected in the price. So, admirable goals, but it's a zombie chain. It's not. I don't really expect it to. I mean, first off, they need to change their name because as long as their name is Ethereum Classic, they're going to be the redheaded stepchild of Ethereum. So I don't understand that marketing ploy at all. Like when Darkcoin changed their name to Dash, that made so much sense because everyone looking from the outside in is like, what is Darkcoin? Huh? That's just as silly as Dogecoin. But now it's called Dash, digital cash, and it's all about fungibility. Cool. Makes so much more sense. It makes anyone from the outside can looking in can realize what that's about. So if Ethereum Classic is going to continue to exist, they need to differentiate themselves from Ethereum, not just with their name, but also with their code. And I know they're going to be proof of work forever, and they're going to do a couple of these other things, but I don't really see it as a threat to Ethereum, and they can continue to do their thing like Bitcoin Cash is. But like altcoins are the side chains of Bitcoin. All these things are providing liquidity in their own different ways. So I'm not really watching Ethereum Classic's development schedule, but I thought they had. I liked that they were pursuing the immutability as an important principle of blockchain technology, but that's pretty much all my thoughts on it. You're hosting a rig of mine, and it's going great, my guy. Thank you. You're very welcome. Thank you for your business. I'm trying to keep. We got a couple more spots left, so I think pretty much anyone. I'll give you guys a free month if you bring me a client. That we're trying to fill up the warehouse as quickly as possible, and then we'll see if there's any business appetite for another building, or who knows what happens from there. But that's been my goal for the past few months, and we're starting to see business pick up a little bit as the market picks up a little bit. So, wow, really going off on tangents on this one. I really appreciate the interaction, you guys. So let's see what else. Oh yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we've been mining over the past 2 weeks. This is something that I like to do every stream because I don't think a lot of people are checking. So I like to actually do this. So let's pull up 2 pictures here. We'll pull them up side by side. All right. So on the left, we've got your standard 1070. And on the right, you've got your standard 470, 570, 480, 580. All those things are remaining the same. I have them all grouped under one thing. There's really very little difference. There may be a little bit of like a 3 mega hash difference in the 480 or 580s versus the 470, 570s. It really depends on the chip, specifically that individual chip, not the model. But usually the 480s and 470s have more complete silicon. But anyway, so those are all the same group. I generally group the 1070s. Uh-oh, my cat's getting up. I generally group. Thanks, bud. Generally group the 1070s, 1080s, 1060s. All of those are going to be in their own kind of group. However, I do benchmark them all differently because 1080s can't really mine Ethereum to the degree a 1070 can. So I don't want all the 1080s switching to Ethereum when it makes sense, because 1070s can do about 30, 31 mega hash. 1080s can only do 25. I know you can do the FPIL, but it's generally better to have them benchmarked differently because they're different enough. 470s, 570s are all about the same. So anyway, I'll get into this. Basically, over the last 30 days, we've seen quite a bit of activity, mostly Ravencoin, X16R. It's about 75% of the time it's Ravencoin. You're seeing the average revenue is about 338, and that's before revenue share. So you take out your percentages for that. Then you can see what software you've been using. So if you guys are mining at home, these are the softwares that we mine, and I actually benchmark them against each other. So if we're mining T-Rex, I know T-Rex does I think I just switched into Z Enemy like halfway through these 30 days, or maybe like last week. So I think we were using T-Rex before, and then Z Enemy came out with an update that made that faster than T-Rex with X16R, so we switched them over. I was using B Miner for Grin, and I switched it to NB Miner. That's actually a little bit faster. So I benchmark them against each other because a lot of these miners compete with each other for the same algorithm. Back in the day, it was just Claymore. It was basically the free. It's my dog's barking. It was basically the free miner, or it was Claymore, and that was it. And Claymore took a 1%, and he took 1% for years, and he just made bank. But now I think the mining developers realize that this is a much better this is a much better model than like SP on Bitcoin Talk was basically posting, hey guys, I have a miner, it will cost you 0.1 Bitcoins, and then I'll send it to you, and don't share it with anyone. And it just, hang on one second. It just didn't make any sense to do it that way. Come here, get in here, come on. So I'm dog sitting right now. This is Joj. He's a Corgi Husky. He's a big bowling ball of a pup. Say hey, bud. He likes to bark. um, so that the business model didn't really make any sense before. It was um, send me zero point 0.1 bitcoins and I'll send you this miner and don't share it. And like as soon as one person shared it, you know, his business model was completely messed up. So what made sense was Claymore basically revolutionized the business model and said, hey, for every hour that I mine, you're going to mine 1-2 minutes for me or whatever it is. And we're going to keep it closed source so no one can actually see what's in the miner. And then I'm going to give you updates and I'm going to get revenue from people running it. So all of our incentives are aligned and no one can ruin it with everybody else. So that's what happened. I want to say about a year, maybe 8-10 months into Ethereum mining. So instead of using Miner, which was free, you got Claymore, which was a pretty significant performance boost. And now you've got all of these are closed source miners. T-Rex, Z-Enemy, NB Miner, TT Miner, all of them take like 1-2% out of the miner, but they're so much faster, they're like 15-20% faster than the public miner. So like everyone's going to use them anyway. And they're incentivized to make them faster, with every update, and they're regularly updated. Like if you go and just Google T-Rex Bitcoin talk, you'll get the miner. You'll see how many updates have occurred. You'll see a whole conversation of people talking about it, and that's just I benchmark them against each other with every update that comes out. So that's kind of how I'm determining whose miner to use and all that. Something really important to note is that we're starting to see the AMDs, even though they're not active in profit switching, they're actually starting to make a comeback in terms of revenue. So average revenue day, they just hit $3. That was the first time it's hit $3 this year. And then we actually saw the 1070s fall from about $4 to about $3.40. And it's pretty much since the beginning of the company, I've been talking about NVIDIA as being the preferred mining card or would become the preferred mining card. Because Ethereum and Kryptonite are kind of the only two algorithms that AMD really excels on. But NVIDIA can do X16R better, it can do MTP better, it can do Cuckoo cycle better, all of these things better. But you really only need to have one, because it can only mine one at a time. So with Ethereum being stronger than all the other altcoins, the AMDs are actually starting to perform a little bit closer in line with the 1070s. So my prediction could be wrong. I mean, it was right up until, it's still right, but we could start to see a shift away from the NVIDIAs and into the AMDs in terms of profitability. Another thing I did is in your mining dashboards, your estimated dollars per day, I actually adjusted that down slightly. So basically, I want to just temper the expectations because sometimes it shows that it's making more money than it is, and I just want to I basically made them averages, so it should be like a shifting average as the day instead of like $2, $8. It should be like an average throughout the day. So that's something else that you may notice on your panels. They're not going to be too big of shifts throughout the day in terms of what your expected earnings are. And then I remember, of course, that most of you are earning Bitcoin and something else, which means, or even if you're not, if you're earning Bitcoin, there's 3 different pools that you're jumping around. So you got to make sure that you know your Bitcoin address to get access to the first NiceHash and Zpool. And then Mining Pool Hub, you have your Mining Pool Hub stats link, and that will give you the coins that are sitting on that pool waiting to get paid out. Because there's basically 3 different thresholds that need to be hit. I can basically move you to one pool. However, you're not going to be exposed to all these different algorithms. Like for example, on the 1070s and the NVIDIAs, the AMDs are pretty much on Mining Pool Hub because I think Mining Pool Hub has shown me that they pay more than NiceHash. So if you're mining the ones that basically NiceHash and Zpool and Mining Pool Hub all have, you're going to be defaulted to Mining Pool Hub. It's only the one you only jump to NiceHash if it doesn't exist on Mining Pool Hub. And actually, Mining Pool Hub just added Ravencoin over the past like week or 2 ago. I think I added it in the Profit Switcher last week. So now all that time spent mining Ravencoin, we're actually going to be doing on Mining Pool Hub moving forward. So that's that. Ethereum is doing pretty well. NVIDIAs are falling a little bit in profitability. There may be a point where you start to mine Ethereum on the NVIDIAs too, but we haven't hit that point quite yet. So yeah, the big takeaways is Bitcoin is performing very well. Altcoins are not performing as much as well as Bitcoin, but we are still in a bull market. A lot of people are targeting I think they said $6,100 and then back down, but I think we hit 6,000 and went back down. So we're still doing this, but heading up. And the last thing, of course, I always like to talk about is the Ethereum. Sorry, sorry about that. Since it's not playing anything in my ears, it'll just turn off. The last thing I'd like to talk about is the Ethereum difficulty growth chart. So basically, this is a way, since Ethereum is the biggest GPU mineable coin, now it has ASICs, I know, but it's still profitable to mine with the GPU. Hopefully until ProgPow, knock on wood. Um, Basically, this is the best way to measure how loose the GPU mining market is. So the more that this is vertical, the harder it is to mine, the fewer Ethereum you will earn. And I think personally the name of the game is getting as many Ethereum as possible, not the USD equivalent of Ethereum. It's like woohoo! It was great when Ethereum was trading at $1,200, but you were earning one Ethereum every 6 months or whatever. So like you were making good money in US dollars, but then you held on to that Ethereum and it tanked. It's actually best to be mining now when difficulty is low, or rather right here when the difficulty is low, because if you believe in the technology, that holding onto this is you're gonna basically bring that overall value up because you're going to be holding more Ethereum. And I think it's important that right now there's targeting a 32 Ethereum per node when we go proof of stake, but that number could change. So I think that's a good number to try to shoot for. So you can participate in staking rewards because I think that's the name of the game. So distribution is happening now. You want to get as many Ethereum as possible, and then we can stake once we go Jasper. That's all I got. This one's short. It was actually a little longer than I expected. Thanks for the interactions. But that's all I have for today. I'm going to put together something a little bit more robust because I have a month. And I've got obviously a lot of other stuff to do in the meantime. But if you guys have any questions, I've got a couple of viewers left in the stream. I'll absolutely put this up on the YouTube. And I'll put my show notes in the Discord for you guys to view as well. So with that, I will sign off. Thanks for watching, guys.